The K't'harr Legionnaire hissed a low, guttural laugh, the sound like rocks grinding together inside his armored throat. His tri-lensed optical sensors zoomed in on the pathetic line of soft-skinned mammals huddled behind their flimsy metal barricades. He ran a forked tongue over his serrated teeth, the coppery scent of the planet's air mixing with the sweet perfume of impending slaughter. He had seen holovids of this species, this humanity. They were new to the galaxy, a pre-warp civilization that had stumbled upon a derelict jump gate and blundered onto the galactic stage like infants wandering into a gladiatorial arena. They were all soft flesh and fragile bones, their technology a laughable collection of chemical propellants and brittle alloys. Here, on the subjugated world of Cygnus X-1a, they had the audacity to stand between the K't'harr Imperium and its rightful spoils. The Legionnaire's commander, Warlord Scorn, had offered them a generous out, scurry back to their dirtball of a homeworld and be forgotten. They had refused. Now they would be made an example of. He watched one of the humans, a female by her shape, climb atop one of their wheeled contraptions. She raised a pair of optical enhancers to her eyes, scanning the K't'harr lines a full 10 kilometers away. The Legionnaire's own sensors could count the stitches on her primitive uniform. She was a dead woman, she just didn't know it yet. He tapped his comm link, a sub-vocal growl to his squad leader. Patience, Gruul. The Warlord wants to watch them sweat. He wants them to feel the shadow of the Imperium fall upon them before we erase them from existence. The human female lowered her enhancers and spoke into a device on her collar. The Legionnaire's audio sensors, tuned to pick up even the faintest whisper, translated her words from their harsh, barking language. All fire teams target designation Scythe 1 through Scythe 20. I want trajectory solutions for every heavy ordnance platform in that vanguard. Synchronize on my mark. A ripple of confusion went through the K't'harr front line. Trajectory solutions? From this range? Their kinetic weapons couldn't possibly reach halfway, and even if they did, the rounds would bounce off Legionnaire armor like pebbles. Was this some kind of pathetic bluff? The female human raised a single hand. In the tense silence of the alien plains, under the light of a dying star, her voice cut through the air, amplified for all to hear. A chillingly calm declaration that would echo through the annals of galactic history. For the lost souls of Proxima Colony, for every child they burned, send them our regards. The Legionnaire Gruul didn't even have time to hiss a question. A sound began to build, not a boom, but a terrifying, reality-tearing hum. The air around the human battle line shimmered, distorting like a heat haze. Then, with a deafening crack that shattered the crystalline rock formations for a mile in every direction, the world became a storm of invisible death. The K't'harr vanguard, 20 massive assault tanks that had crushed rebellions on 100 worlds, simply ceased to exist. One moment they were there, hovering on grav plates, their plasma cannons glowing with latent power. The next, they were turned into rapidly expanding clouds of atomized metal and vaporized crew. There was no explosion, no fire, just a silent, instantaneous erasure. The Legionnaire stared, his 3 hearts pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. He saw a shell casing, the size of a small shuttle, eject from a hidden emplacement in the human line, glowing cherry red as it clattered onto the ground. Railguns. Not just railguns. Planetary defense-grade mass drivers, miniaturized and mounted on mobile platforms. Their intelligence had been wrong. Horrifically, apocalyptically wrong. The human female's voice came again, colder than the void between stars. That was the opening argument. Your hour to reconsider your occupation of this world begins now. I suggest you use it wisely, Warlord. Warlord Scorn slammed a scaled fist into the holographic command table. The display flickering violently as the tactical map showed 20 of his most powerful units blinking into non-existence. His cavernous command deck, deep within the armored shell of his land-crawling fortress. The Worldbreaker fell silent, the usual cacophony of confident growls and chittering replaced by stunned disbelief. "Report!" he roared, his voice a tidal wave of fury. What in the name of the seven hells just happened? An analytics officer, a younger K't'harr named Krell, flinched, but kept his focus on his console, his claws flying across the interface. Warlord, the energy signature is impossible. The projectiles were solid tungsten slugs, but they were accelerated to a significant fraction of the speed of light. The kinetic energy transfer upon impact. It didn't just penetrate the armor, sir. It vaporized it. The shockwave of the impact alone was enough to liquefy the crews and detonate the power cores simultaneously. Scorn stared at the red icons that now marked the graves of his vanguard. He had fought the lumbering Gorvax, the insectoid Thran, the psionic Silru. He had never seen technology like this. Their intelligence on this humanity had classified them as a Tier 2 species, barely capable of splitting the atom, their space travel a joke of chemical rockets. It was a lie. A catastrophic, fatal lie. They were hiding this, Scorn hissed, a dreadful realization dawning on him. They let us see what they wanted us to see. They played the part of helpless primitives. He turned to his communications officer. "Get me the female." "The commander." The channel opened, and the human woman's face appeared on the main holoscreen. She was older than he'd thought. Her face a mask of hardened lines, her eyes a pale, chilling gray. They held no fear, only a profound, soul-deep weariness, the look of a creature that had seen the abyss and had not flinched. This was Colonel Eva Rostova. She didn't speak, merely waited, her expression unreadable. "You have made a grave error, human," Scorn began, his voice dripping with menace. "You have just signed the death warrant for your entire species. My forces outnumber you 10 to 1. My fleet controls the orbitals. I will grind your tiny army into the dust of this pathetic world." Rostova's lips curled into something that might have been a smile, but it held no warmth. It was a predator's expression. 10 to 1, you say? An interesting calculation. You see, Warlord, you're making the same mistake everyone makes. You're calculating based on numbers, but you've never fought an enemy that has truly mastered the art of asymmetrical warfare. You see soldiers. I see targets. You see an army. I see a resource pool to be depleted. Your 50,000 warriors are a logistical strain. My 5,000 are a scalpel. She leaned closer to the pick capture. Your intelligence on us is outdated. We've learned. We've adapted. We fought a war against a hive mind that turned entire star systems into tombs. We learned how to be ghosts. We learned how to be monsters. The choice is yours. Leave Cygnus X-1a now and we will let you go. Stay, and this world will become the graveyard of your Imperium. Scorn felt a tremor of true, primal fear, a sensation he had not experienced since he was a hatchling. He crushed it with sheer force of will. You have 58 minutes, human. Then I will unleash a storm of plasma that will boil the very rock you stand on. He cut the transmission, his heavy breaths echoing in the command center. He would not be bluffed. He would not be intimidated. He would advance. He would crush them beneath the treads of his war machine. He would make this Colonel Rostova watch as he flayed her soldiers alive. But as he gave the order for the main force to begin its slow, inexorable advance, he couldn't shake the chilling certainty that he had just threatened a force of nature, and the storm was not his to command. As the K't'harr war machine began to move, a rolling tide of armored death, Rostova's voice came over the human command net, devoid of any emotion. Phase 1 complete. They took the bait. Hunter teams, you are cleared to engage. Dagger flight, begin your ascent. Let's thin the herd. From camouflage positions miles away from the main human line, small two-person teams unslung long, elegant rifles. They weren't Gauss weapons. They were something far more insidious. As a K't'harr squad leader pointed a clawed hand forward, urging his troops on, his head vanished in a silent flash of crimson mist. His second-in-command turned, confused, only for a similar fate to befall him. There was no sound, no muzzle flash, no projectile trail. The K't'harr just died. Rostova watched the chaos unfold on her tactical display. "The Specter rifles are performing to spec," she murmured to her XO, Major Ben Carter. "They fire a hypersonic flechette encased in a temporary stasis field. The field collapses on impact, transferring all of the kinetic energy in a single explosive instant. No sound, no light, just results." On the battlefield, panic began to set in. K't'harr officers, communications specialists, and heavy weapon operators were dropping dead, their heads or torsos imploding without warning. The legionnaires fired their plasma rifles wildly into the hills, but they were shooting at ghosts. Meanwhile, high above, a squadron of sleek, matte-black aircraft detached from the underbelly of the orbital transport that had delivered the human forces. They weren't fighters in the traditional sense. They had no visible engines, moving with an eerie silence that defied physics. Dagger flight. As they soared into the upper atmosphere, panels slid open on their dorsal spines, revealing racks of long, thin tungsten rods. The K't'harr army was now halfway to the human line, their advance slowing as the invisible snipers continued to wreak havoc on their command structure. Warlord Scorn watched the tactical feed, his rage mounting. "Find them! Triangulate their positions! Scour those hills with plasma fire!" he bellowed. But it was too late. High in the stratosphere, dagger flight reached its apogee. A calm voice came over the command net. "Targeting solutions locked. Rods away." From the heavens, a new kind of death fell. The tungsten rods, guided by the simplest of principles, gravity, accelerated to unimaginable speeds as they plummeted towards the planet. They struck the center of the K't'harr formation, not with explosive force, but with pure, unadulterated kinetic energy. The impacts were apocalyptic. Each rod, a rod from God, hit with the force of a tactical nuclear weapon, but without the radiation. The ground heaved and buckled. Entire regiments of K't'harr and their war machines were obliterated in seismic flashes of light and pulverized earth. The shockwaves alone flipped heavy tanks and shattered the morale of all who survived. Inside the World Breaker, Scorn was thrown from his feet as his fortress tank was tossed about like a child's toy. Alarms blared, red lights flashing across the bridge. "Orbital strike!" Krell screamed, clinging to his console. "They have orbital superiority." Scorn hauled himself up, his mind reeling. But they didn't. The human fleet was just a single transport, wasn't it? This wasn't an orbital strike from a warship. This was artillery from the sky, delivered by silent, invisible craft. He was fighting an army of phantoms and gods. "Gunships!" he roared, a desperate gambit forming in his mind. "Launch the gunships! Sweep the human lines! Burn them! Burn everything!" The K't'harr responded with the ferocity of a cornered predator. Armored hatches hissed open along their flanks, and sleek, menacing gunships rose into the air, their engines whining as they raced towards the human perimeter. They were the apex predators of the skies, armed with repeating plasma cannons and air-to-ground missiles capable of turning bunkers into glass. Major Carter watched them approach on the holographic map, his expression grim. "Colonel, our anti-air is good, but they're sending dozens. They'll saturate our defenses." Rostova's gaze was fixed on the approaching icons. "They're desperate. They're trying to force us to reveal our hand." She keyed her comm. "Man portable air defense system teams, you have authorization. Target their energy signatures, but hold your fire until they are within optimal range. I want to swat them all at once." All along the human line, soldiers popped open cases and assembled sleek shoulder-mounted launchers. The missiles were tipped with an eerie, shimmering blue material. The K't'harr gunships screamed in, unleashing a torrent of plasma fire. The energy shields protecting the human emplacements flared, shimmering under the onslaught, but they held. The alien pilots, confident in their superiority, pressed their attack, diving low for strafing runs. "Now!" Rostova's voice was a blade of ice. 100 streaks of blue light launched into the sky. The missiles didn't track the gunship's heat signatures or their engine exhaust. They tracked their energy shields. The K't'harr pilots watched in confusion as the projectiles veered towards them, then, just before impact, seemed to dematerialize. There was no explosion. Instead, the blue tips made contact, and a strange corrosive energy spread across the gunship's shields like a virus, causing them to flicker and die in an instant. Deprived of their primary defense, the gunships were suddenly vulnerable. Before the pilots could react, a second volley of conventional missiles launched from the human lines, slamming into the now unprotected hulls. The sky, which moments before had been filled with deadly predators, now rained fire and twisted metal. Scorn watched in stunned silence as his entire air wing was annihilated in less than 30 seconds. They hadn't just countered his gunships. They had executed them with a two-stage attack of terrifying efficiency. The first stage hadn't been an attack. It had been a key unlocking the door for the killing blow. He felt a cold dread seep into his very bones. These humans didn't fight. They dissected, they analyzed, they predicted, and they executed with a cold, surgical precision that was utterly alien to the K't'harr way of war, which was all about overwhelming force and brutal ferocity. Suddenly, a new alarm blared, a high-pitched shriek that signified an imminent threat to the command vehicle itself. "Incoming!" Krell yelled. "High-velocity projectile, direct trajectory." On the main screen, Scorn saw it. One of the human railguns, a massive cannon that had been hidden under adaptive camouflage, had rotated, its barrel aimed directly at him. He had thought himself safe, kilometers behind the front line, protected by the nigh-impenetrable armor of the World Breaker. He was wrong. He had just enough time to widen his eyes in terror before the world turned into a concussive roar and blinding white light. The tungsten slug, traveling at Mach 20, struck the World Breaker's frontal armor. The force of the impact was so immense that the laws of physics seemed to protest. The fortress tank, a moving citadel weighing hundreds of thousands of tons, was lifted from the ground. Its armor, forged in the heart of a neutron star, didn't just buckle. It liquefied, splashing inwards as a superheated jet of molten metal that flash-cooked everything and everyone on the command deck. The K't'harr Imperium's invasion of Cygnus X-1a had lost its head. The decapitation of the K't'harr command structure sent a shockwave of chaos through their ranks. The most senior surviving officer, a battle-hardened sub-warlord named Grak, found himself in command of a routed, terrified army. His first instinct was to restore order, to rally the troops and form a defensive perimeter. But the humans gave him no quarter. From the hills, a new sound emerged, the low hum of grav engines. Human-heavy tanks, looking more like mobile fortresses with their sharp, angular designs and massive central cannons, crested the ridge and began a terrifyingly swift descent. They didn't use treads. They hovered, gliding over the cratered landscape with an unnatural grace, their movements silent and predatory. "They're advancing!" Grak roared into his comm. "All units fall back to the secondary rally point. Form a line! Rearguard, buy us time!" But the human assault was relentless. The tank's main cannons fired, not shells, but contained singularities, small, localized gravity wells that tore K't'harr vehicles apart on a molecular level. Infantry squads, clad in sleek, dark armor that seemed to drink the light, moved alongside the tanks. Their rifles, unlike the kinetic weapons seen earlier, fired coherent bolts of shimmering, golden energy that passed through K't'harr armor as if it were water, scrambling the victim's nervous system and causing instantaneous, non-violent death. The aliens fell like puppets with their strings cut. Amidst the slaughter, one K't'harr platoon, their nerve completely shattered, found themselves cornered. Their leader, a young, desperate officer, raised a piece of white fabric, a universal sign of surrender. "We yield!" he screamed in fractured Galactic common. "Mercy!" A human squad, led by Major Carter himself, approached cautiously. "Drop your weapons!" "Claws on your heads!" Carter ordered. As the humans advanced, the K't'harr officer's eyes glinted with treacherous cunning. With a guttural cry of, "For the Imperium!" he dropped the flag and activated a concealed plasma grenade on his belt. Carter's reflexes, honed by years of brutal warfare, saved him. He tackled his own men, diving for cover as the grenade detonated, vaporizing the K't'harr platoon and searing the air. A piece of shrapnel caught Carter in the leg, and he winced, his armor's medical suite instantly injecting a painkiller. He got on the comm, his voice tight with fury. "Colonel, they just tried a surrender-suicide gambit. They're not taking prisoners. They're trying to take us with them." Rostova's reply was instantaneous, her voice as cold and empty as deep space. "Understood, Major. All call signs be advised." The K't'harr have violated the articles of civilized warfare. Protocol Umbra is now in effect. No quarter, I repeat. No quarter. Do not accept any attempts at surrender. Eradicate them! The order spread through the human forces like a death sentence. The advance, which had been methodical, now became a purge. The golden lances of the human rifles and the silent, deadly touch of the singularity cannons became the instruments of a systematic annihilation. The K't'harr, broken and attempting to flee, were run down and eliminated with ruthless efficiency. High in orbit aboard the K't'harr flagship, the Emperor's Wrath, Admiral Vorlag watched the ground engagement feeds with growing horror. He had seen the World Breaker vanish from the tactical map. He had witnessed the utter collapse of the ground forces. He had heard Rostova's chilling no-quarter decree. His second-in-command, a wiry K't'harr with pale scales, approached him, trembling. "Admiral, what are your orders?" "Warlord Scorn is gone. Sub-Warlord Grak is not responding. The ground army is being erased." Vorlag's mind raced. This was no longer a battle. It was a slaughter. These humans fought with a ferocity and technological superiority that was terrifying. He could not allow them to capture K't'harr technology, or worse, prisoners who might reveal the Imperium's secrets. He made a decision that would forever stain his honor, but in his mind was necessary for the survival of the Imperium itself. "Initiate the Scorched Claw Protocol," he whispered, his voice hoarse. The second-in-command recoiled in shock. "Sir, but our troops... There are thousands of legionnaires still down there. They are already dead," Vorlag snarled, his eyes blazing with a fanatical light. "We will deny the enemy their prize. We will cleanse this world with holy fire, charge the main planetary assault cannons, target the human concentration. Collateral damage is acceptable." On the planet's surface, Rostova's command post's sensors screamed to life. "Colonel, massive energy buildup from the K't'harr flagship in orbit. They're charging their main guns. They're going to glass our position." The realization hit Rostova like a physical blow. They were going to fire on their own troops to get at them. It was a level of brutal pragmatism she could almost respect. "All forces disperse. Evasive maneuvers. Get into cover now!" she yelled, her usual calm shattered by the urgency of the situation. But there was no cover from an orbital strike. Not really. As her soldiers scrambled, a new voice, calm and resolute, cut through the chaos of the command channel. "Colonel Rostova, this is Captain Hayes of the United Earthship Vanguard. Apologies for the delay. We were dealing with their picket ships. We're moving to intercept the flagship now, but we're not going to make it in time to stop the firing sequence. We have a solution, but you're not going to like it." Rostova's head snapped up. "The Vanguard here?" It was a prototype battlecruiser, the first of its kind, and it wasn't supposed to be in this sector for another month. "What is it, Captain?" "I'm transmitting the telemetry now. My tactical officer has an idea. We can't stop their beam, but perhaps we can redirect it." Rostova looked at the data streaming onto her holotable. Her eyes widened. It was insane. It was suicidal. It was brilliant. A massive energy beam, a lance of pure destruction, lanced down from the heavens, aimed squarely at the heart of the human position. The air itself began to ionize, the ground glowing with anticipation of its own demise. The human soldiers could only look up, their faces pale, as death itself descended upon them. But then, something impossible happened. From the center of the human lines, a single powerful beam of shimmering blue energy shot upwards to meet the K't'harr blast. It was a shield, but not a defensive one. It was a focused energy lens. The Vanguard, still in orbit, was firing its own experimental shield array, not around itself, but projecting a focal point onto the planet's surface. It was a desperate one-in-a-million shot, requiring calculations so complex that only a ship's AI could even attempt them. The K't'harr's destructive beam struck the focal point, and instead of dissipating, it bent. The entire column of incandescent energy, kilometers wide, was torqued sideways, redirected like a river being diverted by a dam. It slammed directly into the last major concentration of the K't'harr's own retreating forces, who had been attempting to rally near a mountain range. For a horrifying moment, the world was silent. And then a son was born on the plains of Cygnus X-1a. The energy blast vaporized tens of thousands of K't'harr soldiers, their tanks, their equipment, and half the mountain range in a blinding flash of light that was visible from space. The shockwave that followed flattened everything for 100 miles. Aboard the Emperor's Wrath, Admiral Vorlag watched his targeting display show his own weapon wiping out the last vestiges of his army. He stared in absolute soul-shattering disbelief. They hadn't just blocked his ultimate weapon. They had caught it. They had aimed it. And they had used it to finish the job for them. His blood ran cold. The sheer, unholy arrogance of it. The sheer genius of it. He saw the UES Vanguard, a colossal vessel of black metal and glowing blue energy, finally glide into view, its weapon ports opening like the jaws of some great leviathan.
"All power to engines,"
Vorlag whispered, his voice trembling. "Get us out of here! Jump to hyperspace, now!" The battle was over. The K't'harr Imperium, a galactic power that had conquered 1,000 worlds, had been utterly and comprehensively defeated by 5,000 soldiers from a species they had dismissed as primitives. As the dust settled and the unnatural light from the impact site faded, a profound silence fell over the battlefield. Colonel Rostova stood atop the ridge, her armor streaked with grime, looking out over the scene of utter devastation. It was a victory, a total victory, but the price was etched into the very landscape. She felt a presence beside her and turned to see a Cygnian elder, one of the tall, bird-like natives they had come to save. His feathered crest was low, his large, dark eyes filled with a mixture of gratitude and something else. Fear. "You have saved us, Colonel Rostova," the Cygnian said, his voice a series of soft, melodic clicks and whistles that the translator turned into elegant prose. "You have driven the darkness away. We honored our agreement," Rostova replied, her voice flat. "They are a plague," the Cygnian continued, gesturing to the distant burning wreckage. "But the cure, it is a fearsome thing to behold." He looked at her, and his next words struck her more deeply than any plasma bolt could have. "We are grateful you are our friends, but we pray we never become your enemies." Rostova said nothing. She looked down at her hands, encased in the gauntlets of her power armor. She had done what was necessary. She had saved this world, secured the vital xenobotanicals that would cure the plague on the colonies, and sent a clear, undeniable message to the rest of the galaxy. Humanity was not to be trifled with. But the Cygnian's words echoed in her mind. To defeat the monsters, she had unleashed a monster of her own. She had sanctioned extermination, used the enemy's own superweapon against them, and laid waste to a world she was supposed to be protecting. A small Cygnian fledgling, a child, cautiously approached her, holding out a single iridescent feather. Rostova knelt down, her armored knee clicking, and accepted the gift. It was a symbol of hope, of life, of innocence. She looked from the feather in her palm to the apocalyptic landscape before her, and for the first time in a very long time, Colonel Eva Rostova felt the bone-deep weariness of a soldier who fears she may have won the battle, only to lose a small, vital piece of her own soul in the process. The war was far from over. The K't'harr would be back, not with arrogance, but with pure, unadulterated hatred. And next time, they would know what kind of monsters were lurking in the dark, just beyond the edge of known space. And she would have to be ready to be that monster again. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this tale of humanity's brutal introduction to the galactic stage, please show your support by hitting that like button and subscribing to our channel for more content just like this. And for every comment that says, "For Proxima Colony," I will personally heart every single one. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you in the next one.